And now we'd like to go ahead and move on to the next topic. The first candidate who will speak on this topic will be Kelly Ayotte. The topic is states' rights.
Kelly, do you believe that education is a states' right issue? If not, please explain your rationale and how federal educational mandates should be funded.
I think that education is best decided at a local level, because that, as a parent, all of you, you've met with your local school board, you know best what is going to work for kids and making sure that the focus is on education instead of the bureaucracy in Washington. And I can tell you about the agency that I would start with when we look at the federal government and reining in spending. I would look at the Department of Education, because so many of those programs that are there actually add to the bureaucracy in Washington, as opposed to helping serve people locally and making sure that we have a strong education locally. And I would also add that it's very, very important that we engage parents in education. And fundamentally, getting back to local control is about allowing parents to have real authority and ability to have feedback in what happens in schools.
Well, let me read the 10th Amendment. The powers not delegated to the United States by the Constitution, nor prohibited by it to the states, are reserved to the states respectively or to the people. I don't see anywhere in the Constitution that says the federal government is responsible for education. I think that these decisions, in fact all decisions, are best pushed down to the lowest possible level. They're better made in your hometown than they are in Concord, and they're better made in your hometown or in Concord than they are in Washington. I think that local communities should be able to decide whether or not they want homeschooling, whether they want charter schools. And the role of the federal government is to collaboratively assist in terms of setting standards, best practices for the schools. But this is one more area where our federal government has just become too big, too invasive, and they want to get into every part of our lives. And they just don't create value at a national level. So we have to reassert our states' rights and our individual rights, because once again, there's nothing in the Constitution that says the federal government should be in this area.
And candidate Bill Binney, the same question. And candidates, if you do need me to repeat a question, I'll be glad to do that for you.
Education. You know, I think I'm the only one up here that's ever started a school. I started an independent school for 4th grade to 8th grade boys in the city of New York, called the George Jackson Academy. I was one of the founders. One of a wonderful group of people got together. George was my college roommate. And I started with a Jesuit priest. I think I know a little bit about how schools work. And what I learned from that experience, the raising of my own children, is as follows. That for every child to have a chance, they need one supportive adult in their life. And if they don't get it, the likelihood of that child making it, being successful, getting through school in a successful way, is dramatically altered. I think that most of the great decisions are made at a kitchen table, not at a conference table. I think that most of the things that happen that are good in life happen in your homes, not in Concord, nor in Washington. I think to the extent that you can have choices about where your kids are educated, your kids have got the best chance of making it and being successful. So when Washington and all the appropriate teachers' unions and all of the special interests get involved, something gets lost. And I know that because I ended up in our school, starting a school that educated boys that had very little hope. They came from some of the toughest neighborhoods in the country, and yet they went on to some of the best high schools in America. They did it at a cost that was a fraction of what the city of New York was doing. And they did it with dedicated teachers and administrators. So no, I've seen this up close. I think the best thing we can do for education is to make it competitive. We need more science and more math to be all that we can be as a country. We need parents to have choice, including vouchers, and the ability to send your kids to different schools that you think are better for you or homeschool. Thank you.
And candidate Ovid LaMontagne, same question.
Thank you. As I was saying at the beginning of this, for those of you who don't know me, I served as chairman of the State Board of Education in New Hampshire from 1993 to 1996. And one of the great people I had an opportunity to work with on education issues was Senator George Lovejoy, who's here with us tonight. George, good to see you. I'm a former high school teacher. I was chairman of the Diocesan School Board, which oversaw the Catholic schools, until I was appointed by Governor Merrill to serve as chairman of the State Board of Education. In 1994 timeframe, 1995, the federal government under Bill Clinton passed what was called then Goals 2000. One more attempt by the federal government to exercise power and control over elementary and secondary schools in our country. Under my leadership as chairman of the State Board of Education, our state of New Hampshire was the only state in the country to say no to Goals 2000, no to the federal power grab, and to say the federal government has no role in elementary and secondary education. Isn't that what we did, George? Amen. I don't have just the rhetoric, I have the record and the scars to prove it. You can imagine the howls and the cries of the teachers' union about the fact that we were ready to say no to a few federal carrots, and we didn't want to turn over more and more power to the federal government. Back in the mid-90s, the Department of Education, our Commissioner of Education called it a federal outpost because there were so many federal programs that were either paying for personnel in whole or in part. We have got to stop this. And as Republicans, we have to acknowledge something very important. We were wrong to pass No Child Left Behind under a Republican administration. As a United States Senator, I'll be with homeschoolers, I'll be with school choice, and I'll be for the states, not the federal government, when it comes to education. Thank you.